is the even prettier editorial cartoonist of the Chicago Tribune, Scott Stantis. Thanks for joining us, Scott.
Hey, Ted. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I guess I have to be a saucy Asian woman. I don't know if I can pull that off, but I'm going to do my very best over the next hour.
You already have, Scott.
Just by being here.
So please like, follow, and share the show. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. If you have questions you'd like us to answer, please pop them in the feed, and I will attempt to get to them. I'm running the StreamYard. That's usually Manila's job. So anything that goes wrong here is going to definitely be my fault.
No, let's blame the person who's not here.
Yeah, that would be.
Have I taught you
that would be Robbie.
Ted?
Okay, there he is.
He was here for a second.
There he was. Okay, so let's get right to it. Lots of stuff to talk about. Later on in the show, we're going to be talking about some cartoonist business. One of our colleagues got fired by an alt weekly, Creative Loafing, over a cartoon about Gaza. But first, we're going to talk about the summit that happened in Anchorage between Putin and Trump. And there's been some major developments over the weekend in the Russo-Ukrainian conflict and attempts to bring it to a conclusion. We'll also be talking about Israel, which now has its approval rating in the United States has hit a record low. And we haven't found the floor yet, apparently. So, Scott, let's get straight into it.
Sure.
Putin spelled out his demands for land swaps with Ukraine during his summit with Trump, including his insistence that Ukraine give up the eastern Donbas region, that's about 22% of Ukraine, as when you include Crimea, which was Russia annexed in 2014. And also Putin wants Russia to agree to never join NATO. But wait, there's an asterisk to that. In exchange, Putin said he will stop the current Russian advance, which has been, advancing, but not very quickly, but has been advancing. So that the lines would freeze there. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky currently headed to, or I think he's already arrived in Washington he brought all his buddies from Europe to provide backup so that he doesn't get bitch slapped by
Definitely
JD Vance again.
That. Well, he still might be. That's what I want to talk to you about.
We'll get to that. He said, Zelensky said that Ukraine's borders must not be changed by force. I think we're a little bit beyond that. Putin signed off on allowing, however, this is a major move. Putin is agreeing to allow robust security guarantees as part of a peace deal, including a provision that would allow for the U.S. and Europe to provide collective defense of Ukraine in an Article V NATO-like thing that is basically exactly the same as what they would get if they were in NATO, but they wouldn't be technically in NATO. So we agreed to robust security guarantees that I would describe as game-changing, U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff said, adding that the Kremlin also pledged legislative enshrinement of a promise not to invade Ukraine, or in other words, they would sign this into law in Russia or any other European nation. Neither provision, however, was mentioned in Russian accounts of the Alaska summit. So in other words, the Russians are neither confirming nor denying this. So I suspect it's probably true. Ukraine's European allies say they're ready to deploy a reassurance force to Ukraine once fighting has ceased. We don't know if the Russians would agree to that or not. There's no word on that either way. Trump told European leaders that he wants to set up a trilateral meeting, in other words, between him, Putin, and Zelensky, by this Friday, assuming that today's meeting with Zelensky goes better than it did last time. It's a low bar. Zelensky has insisted that a peace deal can only be reached through direct negotiations between Kyiv and Moscow at the leadership level. I mean, obviously, that's what's been lacking all along here. Meanwhile, Steve Witkoff did say specifically, we were able to win the following concession, that the U.S. could offer Article V-like protection, which is one of the real reasons Ukraine wants to be in NATO, Witkoff said. He said it was the first time we ever heard the Russians agree to that. NATO Article V says, quote, if a NATO ally is the victim of an armed attack, each and every other member of the alliance will consider this act of violence as an armed attack against all members and will take the actions it deems necessary to assist the ally attacked, all for one, one for all. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen.
I'm sorry, just let me interrupt real quick. Haven't we done this before? I'm just trying to think of a world war. It was one of them. Yeah, an archduke, for Christ's sake, gets shot. And these alliances, these entanglements, which, Bismarck thought that the triangulation was going to protect us all because, it would. And, well, it didn't. So I'm sorry, Ted, to interrupt. I'm just, okay, go on. Okay.
Yeah. So, that's basically the size of it, right? So this brings up a lot of questions. First of all, if these are the outlines of the deal, it seems like Ukraine is willing to lose. They're not happy about it, but they're willing to sign off on the lost territory, recognizing the reality of it.
I think that's a stretch, Ted. I'm not sure they've said that yet, or even.
I think they have not said. No, they have not said that. But it's kind of like it's sort of a implied, right? Like basically that's the reporting that we're getting from behind the scenes. And then the other thing that's happening is, that the Ukrainians would get robust security guarantees. Scott, that's exactly what Putin didn't want, and what they've been claiming now, not just since 2022, but since 2014, that they did not want, Ukraine on their border to basically become a hair trigger, where two drunken border guards shooting across a river or a checkpoint at each other, triggers World War III. And and now it basically seems like the Ruskies are saying, okay, well, we can live with it. You can have NATO, but we're not going to call it NATO. If that's true, that looks like a face-saving measure for Russia. Like basically like, okay, we're going to give that very important demand up, and we're just not going to call it that.
Yeah, I suppose. That's diplomacy, and that's something that, if that's something Russia can live with, then that's certainly something Ukraine. Listen, you and I have talked about this since the beginning of the war, virtually, and said that this is only going to end one way, and it's going to be am I saying this correctly, Ted? I always screw it up. Donbas.
Donbas.
Donbas region is going to be ceded to Russia, as is Crimea. But and that's a huge hit. Anytime, think about it, 22% of your country is ceded to a foreign entity. That's huge. I think Zelensky comes out of this deal in very short order, being despised by the Ukrainian people, saying, we did all this, we made this sacrifice, and this is ultimately, so we've lost a quarter of our country. I think that's probably what he's fighting for, but there's no other end that I can foresee, either can you, unless Ukraine all of a sudden just develops like phasers or something, some kind of super weapon where they can really push back the Russians who are ensconced. It's a quagmire now. You say the Russians are advancing. They're advancing a foot and a half at a time. It's a quagmire. It's now, you can finish it now, or you can finish it 10 years from now when you have another 100,000. You have another 100,000 names to put on the wall, right? This is just so. It's time. And I think the face-to-face stuff at the end of the week, the deadlines, the arbitrary deadlines that our president puts forward, that's silly. But he's a silly man sometimes. But he sure wants that Nobel Prize, doesn't he?
Well, I disagree with you about the deadline being silly. It's like, as a cartoonist, Scott, that nothing focuses your mind like a deadline.
True.
And it's like, there's been a lot of dithering here. This war has gone on for 2.5 years. You could argue that it's been going on for 10.5 years, because there's been so much fighting in the Donbas going back to 2014. And so, it's like, here all this time later, and really, we all knew where we were going to end up here. I think the way the human mind has this ability to sort of deal with setbacks, and if you're the Ukrainians, you can reason your way out of this into thinking, all right, in the long run, this won't be so bad. We're going to have a level of protection we never had before. And the territories that we lost are the territories that are dominated by a restive minority that never really liked us in the first place. and that we had to kind of dominate and crush. Now, what we're going to have in our country are the remaining 78% of the territory is going to be loyal Ukrainians, ethnic Ukrainians who speak Ukrainian and like the Ukrainian government. That's not what they had before. They certainly didn't have that in Crimea. They certainly didn't have it in the eastern Donbas. So they're kind of like getting rid of the pains in the asses from their point of view.
I want to bring, if we can, I'm sorry, Ted, it's not my show, but Robbie has something to add. But I want to ask you something first before we bring Robbie in. Well, we're doing it anyway. You can do it. Well, he can join in. But the meeting today at the White House, is Trump going to do what he did to Zelensky last time and do it to the European leaders and just do it to their face in public in front of cameras? And that is just be a complete flaming asshole. Diplomacy be damned. He's coming back. I'm getting so tired of reading the mainstream media. Yeah, I know. You just put up that I work for the mainstream media. I love it. The timing couldn't be better.
That was accidental, I promise.
But Ted and Robbie, you got to admit, I'm listening to the mainstream media, and they're all saying, Trump was totally owned by Putin in this meeting. He came back as Putin's lapdog. He came back as, I think Putin made the case, and I think President Trump heard it, and is now saying, okay, yeah, there's this side, and there's the other side. But do you think today, real quick, that with Zelensky and his boy band, from his boy band European leaders, do you think Trump is going to pretty much run roughshod over them again, very similar to the meeting in the Oval Office with Zelensky? I mean, first of all, I just thinking that Macron is going to come to the Oval Office, and even the Frenchman is going to look at all the gold, going, "Ooh." It's just like, but will there be an incident that President Trump will belittle and demean the leaders and just say, just do this and you'll have peace? Don't be idiots.
I don't think so, because we haven't heard anything about what the Russians are saying that they want as a concession. Because Russia's going to want security guarantees. The Europeans are going to balk on that. The Russians are going to want all sanctions released. The Europeans are going to balk on that. And one thing because
the Europeans already stole that Russian money.
Of course,
they have to give it back. No one wants to do that.
Yeah, of course. And then lastly, one thing I want to point out, no one's talked about this being a treaty. This is an agreement. So the difference between a treaty and an agreement, like say, for example, the NATO treaty, you're obligated. You have to do this. If they just have an armistice, whatever you want to call this thing, or a deal, and then people just, they pinky swear that like the Spanish would send 30,000 soldiers to Ukraine, they're never going to do that. They have no obligation to do it. So I think that this is just politics. I think it's a
implication of a treaty, though, right? Because if Russia is being asked to provide a legal framework for agreeing not to reinvade Ukraine or any European country, that seems to me like a treaty obligation, at least unilaterally, at least.
Well, I would disagree, because we don't do things on a law-based order anymore. But now we do things on a rules-based order. And for that point, do you honestly see a case where the United States Senate would ratify a treaty guaranteeing American support for defense for Ukraine after we have just been defeated in a proxy war with the Russians? I don't see it happening.
No, I don't think we can get. By the way, I don't think you can get to I don't think you can get a treaty ratified in the current Congress, Scott.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Yeah, but that's my point.
Of anything, saying anything, I don't think we get a treaty that says the kittens are cute through this. Congress.
I disagree. I think if Trump says pass this, it gets passed. that's the world.
Really, but do you think the Democrats go with it?
No, they don't have to.
Don't you need 2/3 ratification? Don't you
for a treaty? I thought it was strictly majority.
Oh, is that true? All right, we'll have to look into that. All right.
I thought you did the supermajority of 60.
I think Robbie's right.
Well, let's look it up. Somebody, if only we had a device in front of us where we could look up information quickly.
Yeah, if only we had thousands of viewers one of whom might be able to pipe that into the chat. All right. So
where are we? You guys really haven't answered the question. Do you think that he will will Trump bully the rest of Zelensky and the European leaders like he did last time?
No.
No, it's not going to. Well, I mean, yes, but it's not going to be like last time. So the bullying is very simple. The U.S. controls the purse strings to this war. The Europeans don't have enough money to replace the American spending. Their economies are struggling also, in addition, and popular support for the supporting Ukraine is diminishing, although not insignificant in Europe. So I think the Americans are basically, it's like, look, we want out. Trump's been very clear. J.D. Vance said a couple days ago, we want out of the Ukraine war business. So we're not going to pay, and that's it. So
and let me jump in.
And so Zelensky knows, he knew when the election results came down that he was fucked, and it was just a matter of time. Yeah. And we were going to end up where we are now. So that's what this is about. There's not going to be that kind of humiliation again. It didn't look. Trump does this. Trump will beat you up, humiliate you, make you look like shit, and then appoint you Secretary of State, and then say nice things about you. That's exactly what happened. Is going to happen with Zelensky. Mark my words. He's going to say amazingly nice things about Zelensky today. He's going to be like, he's the best. He's the tallest leader of Ukraine. We love him. So he's also the shortest leader of Ukraine. So he's going to be, I think he's going to be nothing. I think it's going to be, people are going to be shocked at how nice he is to the Z-Man today.
Okay. I would hope that you're right, just because for a guy like me, who's an anti-Trumper, still am, always have been, Republican, but I really respect his anti-war stances. He recognizes that he sees wars the same way I do. But they're a total waste of capital, a total waste of life and treasure. They're stupid, and they're bad for business. I mean, quite bluntly. And that's one area where Donald Trump and I can agree 100%. So going forward, I mean, if he can pull this off, did you see Hillary Clinton over the weekend said she'd nominate him for the Nobel Prize if he brings
Well,
peace
there was a huge if there.
Oh, of course. Gee whiz. And a Hillary thing being equivocating? Sure. That's shocking. What was it, Ted?
It was that, Ukraine wouldn't have to give up a single square inch of territory.
Well, of course. Yeah. Well, that's not going to happen. That's just not how this is going to come down. It can't.
No.
I mean, if you're Zelensky, how do you sell this to the Ukrainian people? I just.
What do you mean?
Well, yesterday Zelensky was coming out saying that the Ukrainian Constitution absolutely forbids being able to surrender even an inch of Ukrainian territory.
He may be right.
He's hedging. He's hedging. And
he can obviously they can. I don't know what the amendment policy is for how you amend the Ukrainian Constitution, but obviously it can be.
Well, he's a dictator. He could just do it.
That's true. There's no election.
Yeah, it's the most undemocratic democracy on the planet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of interesting. Yeah, when did they stop? It would be interesting to go back at the New York Times and the Washington Post and see when they stopped calling Ukraine a democracy. Because remember, they still call it that?
Oh yeah, they still do.
How do you call something a democracy that has no elections?
Streamlined.
Efficient.
I mean, think about it, Scott. We as Americans always complain about how problematic our elections are.
Yeah, this is true. Well, in fact, breaking news this morning, Donald Trump says he wants to get rid of mail-in ballots and voting machines, which he can do neither, by the way, because the 10th Amendment. But
wait, so both?
Yeah. Yeah, he wants to get rid of both.
Passenger pigeon?
No, my parents would take me along when they voted back in the early 60s, and the ballot was a paper ballot, and they had this was in San Diego, and they had a rubber stamp that had a little X. And so you rubber stamp by what you wanted to vote for.
It's like, boy, put down your mark.
Yeah. Yeah, well, after they passed the literacy test, and my dad was a landowning white male. So
that's insane. But
no, well, I'm just telling you, it's breaking news. It just
not to
before we
mention
went
Trump
on.
Can't do anything like that because elections are administered by the states. Something that we always forget in the national news for some reason to mention.
Yeah, could there be a national standard? I don't think they can even do that.
No,
because
not at all. They can't say like a voting machine has to do this or do that.
But what Trump can say, he'll say this kind of bullshit, and then Texas and Florida will go ahead and do it. And maybe Montana. I don't know.
Montana
wouldn't. Robbie, do you want to stay on for Gaza before we bring in Bob?
It's up to y'all. I don't care.
Okay, I think you might have things to say about it. All right, so just a reminder, if you're joining us late, Bob Whitmore, the cartoonist, recently let go by a creative loafing newspaper over a cartoon that was ridiculously characterized as anti-Semitic, as just for being supportive of the people starving in Gaza. He's waiting online. We see him backstage. Thanks, Bob. We will have him on in just a few minutes. But first, we have to talk about the situation in Israel. Israel is now at its lowest point of approval ratings in pretty much since ever. So Americans' approval of Israel's military action in Gaza is now down to 32%. It's the lowest since the question was asked first asked in November 2023. Disapproval of the war has now reached 60%. First of all, in the initial days, obviously, the war was supported, as you'd expect. Things pretty much peaked out the support peaked out at 55% in March 2024. Then it dropped to 48%, and it's been sliding ever since. Now, this is super interesting, guys. The decline in approval is completely lopsided to an extreme. So independents, 25%, approve of the war. 8% of Democrats approve of the war. But at the same time, more Republicans approve of it than before. That's up from 66 in September to 71% of Republicans now. While you're chewing on that, new leaked audio from the former head of Israeli military intelligence can be heard saying that the deaths of tens of thousands of Palestinians are necessary and required for future generations of Israelis. For everything that happened on October 7th, for every one person on October 7th, 50 Palestinians must die, said Israel Defense Forces Major General Aharon Haliva in the recordings released by Israeli Channel 12. It doesn't matter now if they are children. The fact that there are already 50,000 dead in Gaza is necessary and required for future generations, he said. It's unclear when this tape was made, but the number in 50,000 officially was surpassed in March, so probably around April or something. There's no choice. Every now and then, they need a Nakba in order to feel the price, Haliva said. The Nakba, or catastrophe in Arabic, is, of course, 1948, when about 700,000 Palestinians fled or were expelled from their homes by armed Jewish groups during the establishment of the State of Israel. So, basically, I think it's fair to say that the Israelis are, not beloved anymore, especially by the liberal side of the equation. And also, it's really bifurcated. I mean, I was really surprised to see that Republican support had actually increased. It was already substantial, but increased in the last poll. I just thought that was really interesting.
No, I think if you follow what's happening in the right-wing media, Fox News chief among them, the coverage is very different than the rest of the media's coverage of this. And I have to believe, as I often do, that the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Even for those of us who are rabid supporters of Israel, it's got enough's enough. I just had a friend of mine who just recently, like within the last week, returned from Israel, and he is of the same mind. He understands what's going on there and is much more understanding of the events in the Israeli response. But by turns, I think these numbers, the 60% disapprove of the war, is also internal numbers in Israel. People are done. They're fed up. They hate the government. This may be a way for, don't forget, Netanyahu's fighting not just
there were huge protests yesterday in Tel Aviv. However, let's bear in mind, none of those protests really express any concern for the Palestinians. This is all about the hostages, even for what's left of the Israeli left.
Well, it's the hostages. It still is. And let us remember what started this, and the hostages that still remain. Well, we could go back 5,000 years, I suppose.
One could.
But let's start with October 7th and move forward from there. There are still some hostages. Again, I asked the question,
20.
which I have: can corpses be hostages? But
I don't understand that at all.
Yeah.
Like, let me just say for the record here, if I'm ever taken hostage, God forbid, and I fucking croak in custody, I don't want anyone to so much as risk a Band-Aid cut, to come and rescue my stupid body.
No, I'm flying to your
does
place
not matter. Nobody needs to be
flying to your place and grabbing your button collection.
Yes, you are. Yes,
Sorry,
you
but-
are. By the way,
yeah.
like, look at it and weep. The
Oh no.
prohibition candidate for governor of New York from 1898. That's right, Mr. Dr. Swallow. I can only imagine the jokes that were told about him. Okay, so.
Oh my God, what a name. Okay, so Israel, I mean, yeah, the United States support of Israel has been, obviously significantly damaged. And that this is going to take years to recover from this. And it's going to take years for Israel. I don't know what they can do at this point. They've set a course that I think is untenable, and it's brutal. And it flies in the face of, that's why these numbers are, to Ted's point, important, because Israel enjoyed wide support in America. Why? Because it was always kind of the underdog. It was the only democracy. It could say we're the only democracy in the region. We're constantly being attacked by our neighbors. We're in a hostile region of the world, and Americans could see that, agree with it, find sympathy with it, find camaraderie with it, and say, okay, we can give you how many billions of dollars a year.
I don't know how much camaraderie we can find with it. I mean, surrounded by our hostile neighbors in Canada and Mexico.
Oh, come on. Those Canadians are too damn quiet, Ted. Come on.
They're not quiet anymore. They're pissed off.
Well, one thing I want to just kind of point out is that the whole reason Trump won in 2016 and then again last year is because he built a coalition that was bigger than the Republican Party.
Yeah.
It's not surprising to see Trump support among Republicans going up, because most Republicans are Fox News boomers who don't give two craps about their own grandkids, not to mention a population being genocided on the other side of the planet. By the way, using inflation to that they're borrowing from future generations to pay for the bombs that they're then dropping on 2-year-olds. So
let's talk about, before we bring in Bob, let's talk about this cartoon controversy. Let's talk about this genocidal rant that this Israeli this general, he's still a general, that he basically, look, I couldn't help. I studied World War II extensively. My mom lived through occupied France she was born in 1935, and France was liberated in 1944. She grew up there. And back in the day, whenever the resistance would kill a German soldier, they would put up a poster. You can buy these posters on eBay that would say, "We have executed 50 French hostages as retaliation for the one German soldier." If it was an officer, they killed 100. I was struck by the exact same number that this general said. I'm sure he's very well aware of World War II history, that he was like, okay, let's copy that. We're going to kill 50 times. We have to kill 50 times more Palestinians, including children. We don't care. This has been a big deal in Israel. He was fired before, basically because of the lapses in security. And Scott, I'd love to get your thought about that. I mean, October 7th, I wrote a column last week where that caused me to research October 7th again, because you know how your memory fades. You're kind of like Winston Smith in 1984. Like, did I really read that? Was that true? and like, I went back to the New York Times. The response time to the attacks from the IDF, from the kibbutzim, the fastest response was 8 hours. The fastest. The slowest was 20 and a half hours. Okay. Now you can drive, look this up. You can drive the longest point in Israel from end to end in 5 hours. Okay. So it's a small little country. They should have been able to get there in 20 minutes. I mean,
oh, come on.
From the nearest military bases, there are bases all over Israel. And like, they also they left the doors to the bases unlocked so the Hamas guys could just walk in and kill the IDF guys. I mean, there was a smart fence. The Israelis knew that it was breached the second it happened. So they let it happen. The IDF, according to the New York Times, saw the Hamas guys practicing for October 7th, a year earlier. They put it on social media. You and I could have seen it. And like, the point is that they were like, there's just, we could just blow that off. They can't do anything. They let it happen. And when they knew it was happening, they let it happen. They let their own citizens die. I'm convinced of it. What about you?
I know you are, and I disagree with you because first of all, 20 minutes is pretty damn fast for a military operation.
20 hours.
That was the longest.
That's how long they took. Yeah.
But the shortest was 2 hours. So that's pretty fast for a military operation to start getting
8 hours. 8 hours is the fastest that they arrived.
Okay, it takes, and I'm going to say it takes time. On
October 6th, we complained that they didn't get there, in 4 hours.
I don't see it. I don't read it the way you read it, because I think military actions take time, especially when something like this happens. And they did blow off.
Then what the fuck is the point of having a military?
Because you can't do it in 20 seconds, Ted. That's not realistic. That's not how these things work.
Cops, something. If I'm the Israelis, I'm like, why am I paying taxes?
No, I think you look at this and you say, how, if you're the military and the government, and you look at this and say, what the hell just happened? What was it? Where did it come from?
You knew exactly what happened because you knew it was going to happen a year earlier.
No, come on. They practice for this shit all the time. You saw the camps. I mean, before 9/11, there were these camps and these weirdo videos of these guys.
The jungle gym videos.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, this sort of shit happens.
I could probably use that kind of workout now. That or Ozempic.
Terrorist workout.
All right.
The ISIS workout.
Let's not keep Bob waiting here. He's been patiently waiting behind.
Thank you, Bob.
And so we'll replace one Robbie with one Bob. All right. So, but wait, how am I getting rid of Robbie? Here we go. Okay, and there is. We're going to bring in Bob Whitmore. Okay, so
good morning, guys.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you too.
Let me introduce this story. So, Bob was the political cartoonist until Friday, I believe, at Creative Loafing. He got canned because of criticisms over one of his cartoons, something that Scott and I have experienced once or twice. This cartoon was of a starving child in Gaza. Basically, you were told that by the corporate parent company of Creative Loafing, which is an alt weekly in Atlanta.
Yeah, what is it? Let's name.
Yeah, what is Creative Loafing?
Creative Loafing is an alt weekly owned by Chava Communications, and Chava owns Cleveland Scene, San Antonio Current, Creative Loafing, and Orlando Weekly. So it's a publishing communications corporation.
It's like a mini chain, basically.
It is. It's yep.
So you've been doing cartoons for them for how long?
3 years, 150 cartoons.
Okay.
Over 150.
I'm going to try to bring this cartoon up, but while we talk about it, okay, so during that time, has your content been primarily political, or?
Oh yeah, it's all been political. And to be very clear, Ray Rowe and I, who was the editor, have worked hand in hand on these cartoons. His mindset is exactly the same as mine. He's rejected a few cartoons, one about Gaza, and that's his right as an editor. I believe in the chain of command, for cartoonists and editors. It's his paper. But this one ran. Ray approved it. He saw no problem with it. It ran, and that's when the trouble started.
You got it yet, Ted? Because I think it's important for the people who are watching to see this cartoon.
Yeah,
by the way,
I'm working on that.
Bob, as you heard earlier, I am a supporter of Israel, but I saw this cartoon and thought this is completely and utterly fair comment. I mean, I did. Who? Do you have any idea who complained?
Two people.
Oh my God! Two whole people out of a country of 400 million.
There were two
Hilarious.
Out of 200,000 readers. And to be clear, I'm a supporter of Israel myself. I believe Israelis and the Palestinians are the indigenous people of that region, and they have every right to be there. It's a shame that they can't get along. So yeah, this is the cartoon. They felt as if it was anti-Semitic, and to be clear, I'm not exactly sure why the corporate publishers thought it was anti-Semitic. In some of the responses that I've got back, because I post all this stuff on Facebook and gotten some very, very positive responses. But Wailing Wall seemed to be one of the hot buttons for them because it probably had a little bit of sacrilege in it. But that was an intentional metaphor. The Wailing Wall is the last wall, left of Herod's temple after the Romans burned it down, is a place of hope and praying. It's hope, it's God's presence, and so that was in my mind. And it's funny because the Israeli flag, which it has the Star of David on it, because that's their flag.
That's their flag. Yeah,
that's their flag. That really, as an editorial cartoonist knows, and you know this, Ted, is you have only a second to make people understand what you're talking about, and that really was there to represent the fact that this was a Gaza wall and Israel's on the other side of it. That was it. The please give me food. Yes, Israel absolutely manages all of the entry points into the wall, but airdrop something. Just let's get the kids food.
Well, the airdrops there have been airdrops, but it's just impossible for those. It's a really inefficient method of getting food in, right? And it apparently a lot of people have been injured and even killed by the airdrops.
Sure. Well, and like I mentioned, and you're right, Bob. I mean, using the flag of Israel, it's kind of funny because I have done critical cartoons of Israel in the past, believe it or not, and used the flag. And if you go, I'm trying to think, is there a flag that has the St. Andrew's cross? I'm trying to think if there's any flag that actually has any. Well, I think many Muslim countries have
many of them. Yeah, they have the sickle moon and the star.
Right, which is
like the Turkish flag, maybe most famously.
Yeah, Tunisia, I can name probably half a dozen flags that do it. So it's always been tricky to use the Star of David, but that's on their flag. If you don't, then don't use it as a state symbol, because if you look at also the crest or the when you get correspondence from Israel, it has a menorah on it. I mean, so does that preclude you from using a menorah because they use it for a political symbol? That precludes you from using that as a symbol? It's absurd. And the thing that really pisses me off, Bob, and you have to answer this, and I know Ray Rowe is your friend, the editor, but again, this happened again, yet again. A cartoon is approved by an editor. Approved. That means the big thumbs up, A-OK, this cartoon can run. It runs in the publication, and there's some kind of reaction that whoever doesn't like. And cartoonists get fired. The more glaring example was in the New York Times. They hired a Portuguese cartoonist, and Ted, help refresh my memory, the subject of that cartoon.
So that cartoon was accused of being anti-Semitic.
Probably. That came close. That one was.
No, not really.
Oh, come on. Showing Netanyahu with a big hook nose, that kind of crossed the line there.
Well, yeah, the dude has a big nose. I mean, I draw everyone with a big nose. So it's like.
Yeah, well, you're kind of like the Siggy for a cartoonist. But my point is, they did not just fire this or apologize for this cartoon. It was a freelancer. They fired two cartoonists they had hired, one in the European publications and one in Asia publications, who had nothing to do with this cartoon.
They never drew the cartoon. They never approved of the cartoon.
No.
They didn't know about the cartoon.
But here's my point, finally getting to my point. I'm sorry, it was such a long road, Bob.
Good.
But finally getting to my point is that not one editor lost their job over that cartoon.
Oh, that they never do.
In fact, the editor who approved the cartoon in the New York Times still works for, stay with me, kids, the New York Times. So Ray Rowe, who was the editor, approved the cartoon, no repercussions from anybody else. You are the only one who's suffering for this, right?
This is, very true. But and more than a friend, I think Ray does an amazing job at Creative Loafing. I think Creative Loafing, as a liberal voice for the Tampa Bay region, gets a lot of press for LGBTQ rights, justice issues that might not make the mainstream. One of the things that I am absolutely intent on doing, first, I would like to get my position back just to make a statement. The second thing I want to do is absolutely resecure independent journalism in the Tampa Bay region through creative loafing. Now, William Randolph Hearst proved that, every publisher has a right to, not a right, but will inflict his knowledge on, the people that read his paper. But I believe that creative loafing had a trust of the liberal folks in Tampa and of the nonconformists that if you read this paper, you're going to be reading a paper that believes in the things that you believe. And killing this cartoon, or not killing cartoon, but killing cartoonists, and then the possibility of apologizing for it, which I was able to stop that because I'm like, that's defamation. Will make people think of creative loafing as something that it isn't anymore. And I want to make sure that gets back, that we get
what
that.
Did they tell you, Bob? What exactly? How did they call you? Did they bring you in? And how exactly did they break the news?
It ran on the 1st after being approved. On the 5th, Ray said there was a problem. They got a couple of letters. And I said, okay, well, we'll just, move on. Yes, it was 2 letters, Scott. I see you shaking your head. A couple of letters. It's all good. No, you're absolutely right.
Well, they do say that 2 letters represents 2 assholes. Anyway.
No, there's always a story, Bob. I'm sorry, but a quick story. I was selling a comic strip called The Buckets many years ago. Stopped by a courtesy call to the cartoon editor of the Chicago Tribune. They had a guy who edits pre-edited material. That was his job. And he says, "Oh, we're getting some complaints here." And he pulls out a file, and it's 7 letters. At the time, the daily circulation of the Chicago Tribune was 850,000.
In fairness, Scott, that's 9 letters in Canada.
So he pulls it out, and I start laughing. And I'm sitting next to one of our sales guy who's giving me one of these in the ribs, and I go, "That's all?" He goes, "Well, we view that every negative letter represents 1,000 readers."
What?
Yes, yeah, that's what I said.
That's science, Scott.
And I said, "Well, have you ever gotten any positive letters about my strip?" He goes, "Yes, we've gotten about a dozen." I go, "Well, that's more than 7." He says, "Yes, but we view positive letters to just represent themselves."
I think my ex-wife had a similar view towards me in general.
So 2 letters. I mean, I'm so sorry, Bob, and I'm really sorry that you're going through this, because this has got to be incredibly painful.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, we've been there.
It's painful, but it's inspirational at the same point. At the same time, how powerful
the work is, right?
Well, I'd like to think so. But when people have been following my cartoons on Facebook, and you're right, Scott. You never know if people like your stuff until people don't like your stuff, and that's when you hear all about it. Yeah. But the outpouring of support. So I let people know it happened, and I said, hey, if you've got a problem with it, go ahead and write a letter to Michael Wagner, Cassandra Wagner, and Ray Rowan, letting them know that you think this is kind of crazy to have happened. That's gotten like 85 shares on Facebook now, and I've never had that sort of thing happen. And a lot of support, and I've seen some of the letters, and they're just like, oh my God!
But remember, those letters only represent them.
Only represent the.
They represent half of a human being. It's sort of like slaves in the Constitution,
like a dog or something, a large dog.
So I know that the editors, the local editors, and Ray and the corporate editor, the publisher, they've gotten a lot of emails.
I'm sure. Probably more than they ever have about your cartoons or anyone else's cartoons.
They ever have for anything that I could ever.
Yeah, this is all about making trouble go away, and they just every single time editors do this, they just bring themselves more trouble. If they would have just shut up and let it blow over, it would have been nothing would have happened.
Well, that's what Ray wanted, Ted, to be honest. He's like, let's do a suspension, which did not sit well with me either. I'm like, suspension.
Why should you be punished? You didn't do anything wrong.
But he tried, and I know I don't want to come across as like, he
what's the word from corporate? I mean, so he's relaying it. You're getting it secondhand. What did he say that they? If you're free to talk about it.
Oh, I can talk about it. The great thing about doing work for free, which I did, is to get my cartoons out there. And I was on staff as the political cartoonist, but it was an honor, and I wanted to help in the mission. So wait, so they're treating you like this, and you're not even being paid?
That's very true, Ted.
That's fucked up, man.
I never. First, I don't think they could afford what I would have asked. As humbly, you want to get paid for your cartoons, but honestly, it really is great, as you guys know, to have a dog in the fight, especially in these times. So, and they gave me, it was right there above Tom Tomorrow, and so I was the cartoon section. But yeah, so the word from corporate is I don't know. I have a meeting today. Ray, I do. Ray went ahead and orchestrated this, and we're all thank you.
Who's the meeting with?
Thank you. The corporate publisher, Michael and Cassandra Wagner. I don't know if Cassandra's going to be there. She's the marketing director. And Mr. Howard, James Howard, who is the local publisher, and Ray. And I think we're just going to have a general conversation, which is going to honestly evolve around the fact of is the cartoon anti-Semitic? And according to the State Department's definition, it is not anti-Semitic. And
according to the ADL, which has gone off the rails since October 7th, used to be a legitimate state institution. There is kind of not much difference between criticism of Israel and anti-Semitism. I mean, I don't believe that at all, but I mean
that's the problem. I think is and I reached out to Cartoonist Rights. They're fantastic, and I've got a couple of they did an article about this, and it really is cartoonists everywhere can't be portrayed as anti-Semitic just for dissenting or criticizing Israel.
You know what? It's time for someone, and I'm not sure you're the person to do it. Maybe you are, but it's time for someone to stand up and sue the next fucker who calls them anti-Semitic, because it is it's a smear to call. I mean, it's one of the worst possible things you can possibly be accused of, and it hurts to the bone. And you don't want people to think you're an anti-Semite. I mean, anti-Semites are disgusting. So objectively, for someone to falsely characterize anyone else as anti-Semitic, they should be called out, and they should be held into. I mean, I know firsthand how hard it is to sue for defamation, but I mean, you would just hope that there'd be some ability to hold someone to account.
Well, I spoke to a lawyer right after I spoke to Ray.
Oh, good.
I did. I sat down. I'm like, I'm ready to go. At first I was like, and then I was like, no, maybe I am that guy. It's like enough. If we're gonna have discussions about Israel, about what they're doing bad, we all can't.
Florida's a good state to be a defamation plaintiff in. I mean, it is. Look at that. That's why part of the reason that the wrestler who just died, Hulk Hogan, he was able to successfully sue Gawker because it's Florida.
But the attorney told me a shot across the bow. One of the things I was able to push back on Ray, and they stopped, is this apology letter. So they're going to publish an apology letter saying, in hindsight, this is we might have been wrong about this cartoon, and
they weren't wrong.
He started reading me, but he goes, look, here's how we'll start, Bob. Bob's a really nice guy, and I'm like, just let me stop you right there, Ray. Bob's a really nice guy, but he hates Jews. It's like how can that, no matter how you start this letter, it just ends badly for me. You guys are off,
there's no other proper response other than,
and I'm like,
we stand behind the work that we publish. We stand behind our cartoonists who we have published over 100 times. We stand, and we don't believe there's anything anti-Semitic about the cartoon, or we wouldn't have run it. The end.
Or we're sorry that we've offended some of our readers. We stand behind the
We're
cartoon.
not sorry we offended some of our readers.
I know.
Ted's being Ted at the moment. But you have to.
Well, I mean, at that rate, don't publish anything, man. Everything offends someone.
Exactly. Maybe, this cartoon, might have been offensive. This cartoon might have actually been borderline sacrilegious. But those, as you guys know, those are both reasons to do satirical cartoons, ways to satire.
I mean, let's say you wanted to do something about the Catholic Church and its, how can I put this, problems. You would show you would show a priest investment. You would show the interior of a church. You might even show the interior of St. Peter's. Is that sacrilegious? I mean, I've been hit with that, and I'm a practicing Catholic. In fact, I think I pissed off my priest, which is, oh well, life is full of.
If only there was a sacrament for that.
Yes, if only. But my point is that you use the state symbols. Bob, I'm sorry. I mean, your cartoon is absolutely fair comment, period. And that's what I would have, as your editor, I would say.
It's very illustrative, right? I mean, it's literally all it's saying is there are kids who are hungry in Gaza, and they're on the other side of a security wall, which is a big wall, and that Israel's on the other side of that wall. That's literally it. I mean, who's going to argue with that? That's true. And we could argue about why they're hungry or whatever, but that's not in the cartoon.
There was argument, Ted. People that were on my Facebook pushed back and said, this might not be true. So there is that disinformation out there that people think that, Hamas is portraying starving children as just propaganda. So while the president himself has said, no, there are starving kids.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, all reputable news organizations say that there's starvation in, well, let's just say hunger, right? Because you're only depicting hunger. You're not depicting famine, really. Right. And so, it's not like the kid is skeletal, like the cartoon I did last week about the Gaza diet plan. So it's like literally, I lost all my weight. I'm dead.
Just don't put a flag in it, Ted.
Yeah. Just watch out for. I've had the flag thing happen before, where it's like you're using Star of David. It's like tell it to the Israelis. And I've always been careful. I've never once used a Star of David by itself, except like on a showing an IDF plane, because they have that on the plane, right? They just have a filled-in Star of David on it.
It's a Holocaust trigger, and we have to, we all understand that.
Sure.
That's hard, but if a national flag has a Star of David on it, and you're portraying the state of Israel, you got to use a Star of David, as we said.
Because you could write Israel on it, I guess, but that's their flag. I mean, I'm flummoxed. I'm angry for you. I'm sure you are too. You were being way nicer about it than I would
stupid, be. What happened to you?
But this is just dumb, and it's also so wrong. I mean, and frankly, I also like the cartoon. I think it's a good cartoon.
I like it. Yeah, it's good.
And you don't hear that from Ted and I very often.
No, that's true. I can imagine you guys are a tough crowd. Yeah.
We are.
So this is a good cartoon, and it says what you wanted to say in a way that I think is not, it's completely and utterly appropriate. I mean, I wish that the publishers had the cojones to just say, no, this cartoon was fine. We approved it. If you see it that way, well, that's on you.
I mean, honestly, I'll even go further than that. I think it's stupid corporate policy. I mean, let's just stipulate for the sake of argument that a newspaper publishes a cartoon that turns out to be some people, or even most people, would interpret as anti-Semitic. You published it. You already did it. Don't do it again. But like from a crisis management perspective, don't even apologize. Just like put out tomorrow's paper or next week's paper and just move on. That's the best way to handle it, really. Yes. I mean, the New York Times doesn't apologize for all the, fucking Judith Miller shit that they published over the years. They don't publish, or all the William Crystal op-eds that all turned out to be wrong, and or all the Thomas Friedman crap that is poorly written and wrong. I mean, seriously, it's like, where's the apology? No one apologizes, right?
And to the point, just our producer just posted a little note saying that, isn't that the point of an editorial cartoon, is to engage and enrage? I mean, and it is.
Yeah, to prompt discussion, exactly the kind of discussions we're having here.
Without hate speech. It's like it's not hate speech. It's all. It's all satire. So we have to keep satire alive, and I think that's that's the
best we
importance
can.
of all of this, the very best we can.
Bob, I
Yeah,
wish
but
you the best with the meeting this
absolutely.
afternoon.
Let me just jump in real quick and just also make the point to Ted's point that, I mean, for the rest of your career, this is going to follow you.
That's
I mean,
true.
that's the thing. That's why taking action now is so important. I hope that your meeting. What time is your meeting today? May I ask?
It's today at noon.
Okay.
Ooh, high noon.
I knew.
I'll send out some good Catholic.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, I'm
I'll join
Catholic
your
too,
way.
Scott. So I'm like, yeah, let's do this.
All
Yeah,
right.
I'm so sorry you're going through this because, like I said, Ted and I have gone through this numerous times. It's, being called anti-Semitic. I've been called racist here where I worked at the Birmingham News, in a town that's 78% African American.
That's not good.
And it breaks your heart because it's not what you are. It's not what you meant. They know it. by
It's
the
not
way.
true. Yeah.
It's simply not true. And to go through this, I can't say I'm sorry enough. And if I feel for you, man, this sucks.
I appreciate that. But
I agree with that
it's
completely.
a gauntlet. I'm glad I picked up, and if I truly believe that good things will happen because of this.
Good. I hope
Well,
so.
let us know, please.
I hope
because
tell
I will.
the fuckers to start paying you.
Well, that's sort of like, if okay, we'll have you back, Bob. I'm like, okay, well, here's what I need. Yeah, so it's good. It's no more freebies.
Yeah, really. I mean, seriously, it's like, and you could even say, look, the attention this has gotten kind of should tell you about the value that political cartooning brings to your paper.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
Anytime,
I really appreciate it.
please drop us a line and let us know what happens.
I will
yeah,
do that.
please.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Bob.
Bye.
Take care.
All right, so that was the voice of Bob Whitmore, freelance writer, cartoonist who got to start doing cartoons for college papers at both Marist College, north of New York City, and Syracuse University. For the last 3 years, he's been a contributing cartoonist to Creative Loafing. He's been on the editorial staff as their political cartoonist for 2 of those years. Recently, he was let go after the corporate publishers deemed a cartoon that ran in the August 1st edition as anti-Semitic. Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, it is, we've seen this before, right? I mean, obviously, and you and I have both been there before. And it does drive me crazy. I love why you said it, like no editors have been harmed in this process. And ain't that always the case, right? I mean, think about
God.
the LA Times. LA Times, if you listened to them, published a big pile of bullshit lies that smeared the poor innocent LAPD by yours truly. But all the editors who saw it, commissioned it, re-edited it, and published it, they're blameless. And it's really hilarious. When I sued them, their side of the story was Ted Rall published an article in the Los Angeles Times. Ted Rall doesn't publish anything in any newspaper. Ted Rall doesn't own a newspaper. It's like Ted Rall didn't publish anything. You guys, the LA Times published Ted Rall's piece of shit lie anti-LAPD screed, right? I mean, cut the shit.
Behind the scenes little story of editorial cartooning, there is a cartoonist who got fired because he was told by his editor that the cartoon was he killed the cartoon, which nobody likes, but the cartoonist waited for the editor to go home and then walked it down to production and had it put in the paper.
Oh, that's awesome.
Do you want the name? Because I don't care.
Yes, I want the name.
You will be surprised. Not at all. Ted, are you sitting down?
I am sitting down.
Steve Golden Kelly.
Oh,
Does that's very much in.
That's in keeping.
Yes, with the type of personality. Yeah, he apparently did this. He felt strongly about the cartoon, felt the editor was wrong, and went in and published the cartoon.
And literally, what happened the next day when the editor comes to work? I'm sure things were spicy.
Oh yes, yeah, that's one way to put it.
And
well, there's no longer the cartoonist at that paper. So
as a result of this incident,
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Well, if it wasn't that, it was going to be something else. That's hilarious.
I know. Yeah, I kind of. Half of me is like, that showed some balls, man. That's good.
Yeah, there was another cartoonist. It was either him or someone else who like punched an editor in like
it was Steve
in the bathroom.
Yeah, they had a fight.
Now I think that turned him into a hero to all cartoonists.
Yeah,
I mean, who hasn't wanted to punch their editor?
And yeah, I mean, truly, punched him right in the men's room.
Well, I mean, at least there was no trans issue involved here. I mean, it happened between where men usually fight, by the urinal.
Yes, that's exactly where I have all of my fights. I gotta before we gotta go. I see we're out of time, but I just gotta ask: are you of the mind that no words should be spoken in the men's room as you're standing at the urinal, or are you a Peabody? Do you just start yapping?
I'm Silent Bob. You know, I'm like it's like we're here to do. I mean, there was Roseland here in New York City was a really storied concert venue. It used to be a ballroom and with like roses in the carpet. Beautiful place. I saw a bunch of bands there, like the Kinks and people like that. Anyway, they had the bathroom was like a big old 1920s bathroom, and the urinals faced each other with a wall like about 3.5 feet high, and so you're like literally face to face with other dudes, and I was like, this wasn't well thought out at all.
No, that would be uncomfortable.
At least we need like a COVID type protector, you know, at least in between. A wall, build the wall all the way up. This is where you bring in the Israelis to build some more walls.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, it was the most uncomfortable. Well, actually, that's the second most uncomfortable pissing situation I've ever had. The bathroom of last resort, as we used to call it, was the subway bathroom in the New York City subway system.
Ooh.
They're almost non-existent now, but they were scattered throughout the system. And if you were a very desperate man, so one time I used the Times Square station bathroom. I was a desperate man in the 80s, and there was a nude homeless man walking, prowling behind us, like as we're all nervously trying to declench and release. And he was just like, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, oh my God, NTM, there's no place like home. But I gotta piss. I can't leave. And that might be that has to be the worst. We were all terrorized.
Oh my God, no, that sounds horrible. Full disclosure, I suffer from nervous bladder, and so I take, under those circumstances, it would have literally taken 2.5 days for me to start to pee.
Oh God, that'd be so painful. Yeah.
Well, it was just, I'm kidding, of course, but like they have at Wrigley Field, they talk about the bathroom. They have the troughs.
Yeah.
Literally troughs, and they're disgusting, and they're open troughs, and you pee into them,
mm-hmm.
and
just like at elementary school in 1968.
Oh, did you really have a trough there? We had urinals.
No, we had troughs.
Oh my God! Well, I guess that's what makes you
George L. Ernst Elementary School.
George what?
George L. Ernst Elementary School in Kettering, Ohio.
I got to ask before we go, who is George L?
Who fucking knows? I don't know. Just some local dude.
I gotta look this up. What was the last name again?
Ernst, Ernst.
I'll have to look that up sometime.
He was a luminary of Southwestern Ohio.
And God bless him.
He invented the Ernst pickle, maybe.
Bob's meeting is less than an hour away now.
Oh, so, cool. I mean, seriously, I hope that they see the. I would suspect the fact that they're meeting with him is a good sign, right? Like, usually they freeze you out when. That's it. You and I know. And so
our friend Chappelle at the Pat at the New York Times. It was previously the International Tribune.
Now it's the New York Times International Edition. Right?
Yes, and they just there was no follow through. You're bye. We're firing you. Oh, what for? Okay, this cartoon. I had nothing to do with it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're gone.
Yeah, you and your children and your family will starve. We don't care. It'll be a wailing wall.
Oh, yeah. So I think definitely I would handicap this like 80%. It'll all go well.
Okay, I really am knocking wood and saying a prayer.
Yeah, me too. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining the show. You've been watching the TMI Show with Ted Rall and Manila Chan. Manila will be back tomorrow. Please like, follow, and share the show. Thank you, Scott Stantis, for filling in for the vacationing Manila. Thank you, Robbie West, for producing the show. And we'll see you back at 10 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Let me see.
Thinking of you, Bob.
Let me make sure I do this right. And away we go.